Here we go. When we're off to the races. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome
Morning.
to Book Club Users. Today is Wednesday, November 13th of 2024. It is our last Book Club Users meeting of the year. And it's the last that's going to be kind of in this more narrowly focused scope. In 2025, we're going to kind of expand Book Club Users to include more resource sharing, more of a resource sharing focus. And then we're going to welcome our interlibrary loan friends from interlibrary loan users, which is an even smaller group than this, into that group. So we can talk about fulfillment and things like that, things that like kind of straddle the two groups. So I think it'll be a good fit for everybody. And they tend to be very quiet, and this group tends to be a little chattier. So it'll draw out some nice conversation. Um, Speaking of which, so we're going to do our icebreaker. My name is Helen Pender. I'm the resource sharing consultant for SWAN. And we're going to go around and say the book that we hate the most, that was the worst, most dreadfully written thing ever. Um, I am going to really put myself out here, and I'm going to say a separate piece because that ruined my summer before my senior year. Ruined it. I had to read it for school. I had to do an essay on it for the first day of school, my senior year, and I read it, and it was so sad and just emotionally crippling that I couldn't get out of bed for a couple of days after I read it. So a little bitter. So separate piece. Hated it. And then I'm going to pass the mic to my the to the chair of this group, Lauren Maxwell.
Woohoo. Well, thank you. I have never read that one, so I look forward to being super depressed when I do. I am Lauren Maxwell. I work at the Geneva Public Library. Um, I already shared pre-recording that one of my most hated books is The Jet Setters. But I will add to my most hated books, Mockingbird Summer by Lydia Rutledge, who wrote West with Giraffes. It is intended to be a very like civil rights positive book. But the whole vibe I got was, oh no, that poor white boy that saved everybody. So I did not enjoy the ending of that book because I felt it perhaps was not serving the theme to end the book in that way. Um, but I will hand it off to Marissa, if I may, to say hello.
Hi, I'm Marissa, and I think before the recording I said The Vacationers by Emma Staub. But then I thought of one I like of hers even less, which is All Adults Here, and I felt a little guilty for disliking it so loudly at a book club that I wasn't running. But I just felt like I couldn't like anybody. And then I felt guilty for not liking them because I was supposed to like them. And it was just this meta swirl of guilt, and it came out in a not graceful way. I also want you to know, Helen, I had to make a diorama about a separate piece, and I got a C, which was a really big deal to me because I'm a big old nerd and I was upset about my English grade then. So yeah, it's a bad book.
It's crushing. What did you even include in that diorama? I can't even imagine how you would
I
do that.
mean, I'm no materials artist, so I'm sure whatever it was probably inappropriate. I mean, it was probably no, I can't even remember. Maybe I just did some stick figures. I don't know. Whatever it was not worth an A or a B, worth a C.
Okay, can I nominate Carrie Ann to say hello and introduce yourself?
Not hearing Carrie
Not
Ann. So if you
hearing.
don't have, oh, we have a chat.
There's a chat.
I will read. I don't have a microphone right now. Sorry, I'm Carrie Ann from Bloomingdale. And my most hated book is The Grapes of Wrath. That was my second, Carrie Ann, I'm right there with you. The Post Turtle. I was like, why am I reading this right now? It was really, really dry, and I don't like interchapters as a convention. it bothers me in a way that I can't even really articulate. It's just like a whole separate book just shoved in the middle of every other chapter. Why are you doing that to me? I have a test. Okay,
All right.
thank you, Carrie Ann, for sharing.
Beautiful. May I nominate Lee next to say hello?
Yes, hi. I am from Summit Public Library District, and I can tell you I have two most hated books. My most hated book, I think, is The Call of the Wild by Jack London, because of the fact that I have been traumatized and have still suffered PTSD from reading it in I think it was sixth grade or something, with the dogs. I'm a huge dog lover. And I could not stand all of that dog stuff that went on in that book. It still angers me. My most recent hated book now is by a favorite author of mine, which is Frida McFadden. And I have read almost every one of her books. And the most recent one I read was The Widow's Husband's Secret Lie. And it's a satirical novella. And I thought, oh, it'll still be, it'll be good. It was the dumbest book I have ever read, and I was angry at myself for continuing to read it. And then I was angry that I wasn't reading it. The whole thing was just a mess. I hated it. So I'm just a little bitter, just a little bit.
I can understand that completely.
Yeah,
It
I was
does.
really upset.
It reminds me of the title of that Netflix show that Kristen Bell was in. The like woman in the window across the street from the
Oh,
guy that did the thing. Like,
it
do you
was,
remember that one?
yes, it was really dumb. And I watched it and I kept thinking, well, it'll get better, it'll get better. It never got any better. It was dumb.
No, same idea though, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, but I love all the rest of her books, except I'm not reading the short stories, I decided, because now this is the last short story that I've read of hers. None of them were good, but this one was just downright offensively stupid. So,
Noted. All right. Well, that leads us to Jane. Would you like to say hello?
Hello. I think what you guys are asking is what is the worst book that we've read, and right now I just can't come up with something, but I'll think about it for a little bit.
How about a book that a book club categorically hated, even if you didn't hate it?
Um, I don't know.
You just pick winners every time?
No, we don't. I'll have to think about it. We'll come back.
Beautiful. Well, I will share that our most hated book club recommendation that we ever did was for our local senior center. We recommended a book of like short essays based on women's lives and experiences, and they came back and said it was the most terrible thing they'd ever read. And as we were exploring why, they all, every single one of them said because there was a mention of a feminine hygiene product, and how dare they?
Oh, really?
oh
The
boy.
whole book was ruined
Wow.
because
Okay.
there was one essay that mentioned one time.
Well, as women, I think we can all understand that something like that can definitely ruin your day.
I
Yeah,
guess.
it certainly helped us tailor their reading recommendations for the future. We'll say that.
Oh my
Oh
God.
boy.
Well, we are ready to dive into our agenda for today. Our agenda looks a little bit different than what we have kind of been discussing for these last several sessions because of this transition that we are making in 2025. So one of the things that I would really love to hear from all of you is what your current practices are for obtaining materials for your in-house discussions. Because I have a feeling that that particular topic will come up frequently as we start to merge with the ILL users. So I will volunteer to go first. We place a lot of holds on materials through SWAN. We have an 8 to 9 month rule where we don't place holds on other people's materials if they are younger than 8 to 9 months at the time that we're pulling all of those things together. And we make sure that we're placing those holds so that they come in time for our discussion, and then they hang out here with us until the next discussion comes, and then we very promptly send them back. So generally speaking, we're only holding on to materials for about 4 weeks at a time. Does anybody else have a similar or wildly different procedure for getting your in-house book club materials?
Well, I'm at Eisenhower and it's pretty similar. I have to look for large type because I think half of one of my adult groups can only read large type. So I'm always looking for books that have at least 4 large type copies in SWAN or, you know, in our library. And I also ILL some as well, like out because our circulation head told me that it was a bad practice to gobble up all of the large type copies in the system, which I get that, I get that. So sometimes we send out interlibrary loans for other libraries' copies. Not super frequently, but sometimes. And you're right, we hold on to them, I would say sometimes 5 weeks, depending on how early I put in my requests. Typically, we pick our books 3 months ahead of time, and so I'll do them all and then freeze the holds until a week before we meet for book club. We will discuss before the next set will come in.
I think there used to be an idea that you wouldn't deplete more than half of the number of copies that exist in SWAN. I think that's kind of fallen off at this point because if they're on the shelf, particularly as Lauren said, if it's not something that's new or in demand, it's just sitting on the shelf. So go ahead and grab as many as you like. Are you guys aware that you can place multiple holds, multi-copy holds in World Share?
I was not aware.
Would you like to see how that's done? Can I
Sure,
hijack
yeah.
the meeting really quick?
Yes. We love learning new things, Helen.
So let me do this really quick. I'm gonna min my chat so I can see what the heck I'm doing. Oh, I'm on camera. That's why I'm running slow. I'm going to go off camera so my computer doesn't explode. Okay. And I'm going to pick Geneva because you're right here. So,
Yeah.
should have done a better search. Oh wait, title. There it is. Okay. So I'm going to create my request. And up here, buried in this little menu, you can choose the number
Did you know that was up
of
there?
copies you need.
It was just right above. Oh, okay.
So if you need 5, there's your lender strings, and you can populate them like that. And then you just send your request. So
I just figured it out.
easy cheesy, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm gonna close that out.
It's just at the top of the lender string. It just said multiple. Just dropped it down. That's it.
Okay, so I just wanted to show that to you guys really quick.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Or use it for us.
Oh, and Lauren had to step away for just a moment. So we were talking about current practices for obtaining materials for in-house discussions. Does anybody else want to share?
I actually have something that's pretty unique. We do not, we don't borrow the books, we purchase them. So I don't know if the rest of you are you guys basically are you dealing with adults or seniors or both?
We have both. Well, a
You have-
lot of seniors though.
Okay. My book club is restricted only to seniors, and we actually have a grant, and that's how I am able to purchase the books for everyone. So you have to be over 55. And I always say I'm the baby of the group because I'm only 53. So, so we have a grant that allows me to purchase the books for everyone, and then they're allowed to keep them. So what I do is I have to buy them. I have 16 members in the book club. It's a very, very popular group and my seniors love it. And what I do is I choose the book and then I will go on to thrift books. And usually that's the least expensive, or I'll go on mass market and then I'm able to purchase, a multitude of books. Once in a while, I actually get them on Amazon because that's the cheapest. But usually I go to thrift books first and I get them in, I don't usually do new, I'll do like good to very good condition. And then everyone is allowed to keep their book. So that's a really nice thing. The seniors really, they love it. And I know someone had said that they try to get the large print. I have a really hard time getting large print books. I am able to get them sometimes, but I usually cannot. And it's difficult because I try to explain that they're not doing books that much in large print anymore, because what they're doing is they are going, they're wanting people to go and use it on their tablet, and then they can make the print as large as they like.
Yeah, that came up at a meeting a few months ago. How it's getting increasingly difficult to
Yes.
find large type.
Yep.
Could you use your grant to buy tablets for your patrons?
I could. They don't want to do it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, mine really don't either. They prefer the large type.
No, there's like out of the 16, there's only 2 and possibly 3 that would be okay with the tablet. Everybody else just wants a book. They don't want to be bothered with learning how to use a tablet. And they also, most of them want the feel of a book. So they don't want the tablet.
So Lee, is that the only book discussion that you support, that your library supports?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? I think most folks will exhaust the SWAN holdings and then go outside to ILL, OCLC if they need to. I do know that some libraries will purchase copies. You gave us some good resources there, Lee. Thank you. Um, does anybody support patron-led book clubs? I know there's a few SWAN libraries that work with their patrons so that the patrons can run their own book clubs out of their homes.
Oh, no. Mine would never want to do that. They love to come to the library. A lot of them say that this is their big social outing for the month. We only meet once a month.
Okay, so let me chime in here. So nobody orders books like for book clubs that meet at their homes?
Oh,
No.
we don't do that at Eisenhower now.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Geneva does. I know St. Charles does. I'm almost certain Downers Grove does also. But
Because
we're in a
we
pretty small
do
group
here at
today.
LaGrange, we have gosh, probably more than 10 book clubs that I regularly order their books up for them, and they don't meet here at the library. They meet, you know, off-site.
Do you advertise that as a service?
No.
Oh, yes, we do.
Oh, well,
Yeah, on the website.
yeah, on our website, that people can create a book club and have us order the books for them. And it's one book, one person. So like we have their library card numbers for all the people that are in the group.
Then does the coordinator get in touch with you and let you know what the title is, and you just place holds,
Yes,
just like you would for normal patrons, but just with.
Correct. We have on our website, we have a thing where the in our book club corner that people can request their, you know, once they set up their account, they can continue to just, it's a form that an online form that they'll fill out to request their book, and then I'll get that and then just order up the books for the people that are in their group.
And do you
And then they just go on to the whole shelf just like a regular book. It's a regular checkout time, you know, the regular time.
I'm looking at the chat here. Carrie Ann from Bloomingdale uses the same process, exhausting SWAN Holdings first and then OCLC if they can't find enough, but they did have a unique circumstance where an employee wrote a book that a book club wanted to do, so they had to order more.
Wow.
But I think by and large, people aren't buying enough copies. They aren't buying copies for their participants. And Lauren, while you were gone, the question came up, how many folks are supporting patron-led book clubs?
We are.
I knew you were. You want to talk about that?
Sure. It's kind of my baby, so I'm very proud of it. So if I wax poetic, you can give me the wave to tell me to stop. But we currently fulfill approximately 20 patron book club requests each month. We have a lovely form on our website where they can request all of their materials. They can request up to a year's worth of titles at a time. Our book clubs fall into two camps. They're either planners or by the seat of their pantsers. So we will get some that are a full year, and then we get some that are like, can I have that bestseller next week? So we do a lot of managing expectations with that second group. But we generally, we do not use interlibrary loan. That was one of the big changes that we made about 5 years ago, because we were getting into a pickle with people asking for super obscure things that we weren't able to get enough copies of. And then there were a lot of sad feelings about us being unable to obtain those materials. So we stopped using interlibrary loan. We only use SWAN Holdings to fulfill those requests. Helen, I can see you are on our lovely page for book clubs, but yes, if you scroll up to the top of that page under books and more, there is a book club favorites page. And that's where you want to go. So this is our process at the top. You put in your request. That gray box is a collapsed menu, Helen. So if you click on it, it'll open up our lovely form, which is incredible. There's a spot there for you to put in your multiple titles. We discovered we really need to have both the date that they want to pick it up and the date that they're discussing it, because some book clubs fixate on either one. And then we were having some trouble with getting things at the particular time. And we only obtain materials in regular print, large print, and audio CD. So this form comes straight to our book club service. We have multiple staff members that are checking that on the daily. And then we place those like suspended frozen holds on our book club cards, bring those in, and then we put labels on them, a lot like the hold wraps that we have for regular holds, and they go out to the hold shelf for the week. Patrons can come in and pick them up. Some people pick up the whole set. Some people pick them up one by one. It's up to them how they do it. And then after a week, we clean the whole shelf of anything that hasn't been sent or hasn't been checked out already. And then the whole cycle starts itself over again. So currently, like I said, approximately 20 a month. The other thing that we have, which is lovely, is we do have a book club favorites collection, which is made up of like the big hot bestsellers. We have 12 copies of regular print and usually 3 copies in large print of all of those book club favorites titles. So you can see our most recent editions on your screen right there. So like the Heaven and Earth grocery store, super big book club book. Having that collection means that we can say yes to those patron requests before they fall off of the new shelf. Even though they would be considered new materials, we can say yes because we have enough copies that are owned by our library that we can give them to our patrons who request it through this service. So it also is the most wonderful reader's advisory tool because it's like a microcosm of our adult collection, because there's a little bit of something of everything. So even if they are not actively in book clubs, they're out on the floor and people love looking through this collection for just a fun read. The women, of course, is like the biggest thing at the moment. We are still booked out for that one until April of next year. Because we only say yes to one at a time. Because we only have the materials to support one request at a time. If any of that does not make sense, please let me know and I'll explain further. But we sort of in this way have this sort of hybrid model where we can get backlist materials really easily through SWAN, and that's lovely. And then we can still say yes to our patrons for the new materials so that they are not disappointed that they have to wait like a year to request the new hot book that they've been hearing about.
Please, excited about seeing the women on here in the chat.
Yep, I think at this point, our library owns about 30 copies of that book. So, did we exhaust our first
I believe
question?
we did, unless anybody else has
Okay.
anything to contribute.
I
Can
apologize.
my name's Maria. I'm here with Jane at LaGrange, and I just wanted to, can I go back to Lee for a moment and just ask you more about your senior book discussion?
Sure.
Because it sounds like it's very popular and well attended. Where are most of your seniors coming from, and how did you promote it to get it to the point where it's at?
Okay. It's a really, really popular club. Most of my seniors are right from the area. We're a small library. We only have a total of 10 employees, including the director. So we don't have all the fancy stuff that I'm hearing all you other libraries have. But anyway, so what we did is we had a couple of seniors, this is the 3rd year in going into book club. We had a couple of seniors reach out to us and ask if we could do a book club. And we kind of started with, okay, we'll see how it goes kind of thing. And we only had 2 people and it really wasn't very well attended, obviously. And then those 2 seniors though, they kept on coming and we kept advertising it, and we knew not to advertise it really on Facebook and don't put it on Instagram, don't do any of that because the seniors aren't going to that.
Mhm.
So we started advertising at the Park District, the Village Hall, different churches, and basically word of mouth. And suddenly then we had another senior show up, and then we had a couple more. And then suddenly, I'm at 16 and I'm like, ooh, this is a lot of people. It's actually a lot bigger than I intended it to be, but everybody really enjoys it. And most of the time I don't get all 16 to show up. I might get 12 or 14, but occasionally I will get all 16. A lot of them, when they started, then they would tell a friend, and then their friend wanted to come, and then they brought a friend. And I actually have one of my book club members actually lives part-time in Wisconsin, and she comes, she tries to make sure that if she's in town, or that she attends book club, or if she's not in town and she knows that she's going to be coming to Illinois, that she schedules it around book club.
Wow.
Yeah, she likes to come, and yeah, she gets a kick out of it. Another thing that I do, that I do two things that my seniors really, really love. I take, and it's so simple. I take a little Post-it note, and I always put the date of the next book club meeting, the date and the time. It's always the same time. It's always on a Thursday. And obviously the date changes, but it's always the first Thursday of the month. Take a little Post-it note, and I go ahead and I put that on the first page of the first chapter. So it's
Mhm.
like a little reminder, and they just love it. They
Mhm.
immediately, when I give them their books, they all look for it. And they usually use it like as a bookmark.
Mhm.
So they do that. Another thing that I do is I buy a little, what I like to call a little souvenir of the book. So, for instance, our last book club meeting was last week, and we read The Giver of Stars. And so I bought everybody little rings in different sizes that were made, they're little silver rings that had little stars on them. So everybody got one of those. We read another book. Let me see. I've got my little agenda thing here because I can't think of the other stuff that I had given. We read 52 Cups of Coffee, which was a different kind of a book to read. And I got everybody a coffee mug with little library books all over it. Everybody had a giveaway. And like I said, all of that is supported by our grant. And since I buy stuff more so in bulk, it's not as expensive, and I'm really good at getting deals and searching stuff online and trying to keep it under budget. And I usually go way under budget with stuff. So
Yeah. And I assume it's a daytime book discussion?
yes, it's at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday.
Okay. And what library do you work at?
Summit Public Library.
Oh, okay. You're right nearby.
Yeah, we're little.
I didn't realize you guys were that small.
And then do you pick the books? How do you decide on your selection?
I pick the books. And how I do it is I kind of pay attention to what's coming in and out of the library, what's most requested.
Okay.
And then I do that. I do a number of things. I take a look at that. I will sometimes look at other libraries to see what their book clubs are reading. I'll try to see, okay, what's kind of popular. And then I switch it up all the time. So we'll read like a thriller, we'll read a romance, we'll do, I do banned books, I do biographies. We try to switch it all up so that people are reading stuff that they might not normally have read. And I get a lot of that where they say, oh, I don't read this kind of book. And I say, well, I'm not going to force you to read it. We're not in school. I'm not going to make you read it, but hey, give it a try. And I get a lot of people that say, oh my God, I'd have never picked up that book if it weren't for book club. I'd have never thought about reading that. And that's kind of how I do it. And sometimes I'll ask them, well, I won't ask them a title so much, but I'll say, are you guys interested in reading, something by this author or something like that? And I will just kind of go with it there. I don't ask people for suggestions only because I have so many people now.
Mhm.
It's just, and some people, like someone else had mentioned, they turn around and they want the most popular book that's going on right now. And I cannot always buy the most popular book because if I have to buy 16 copies, it can run me $400. And I
Yeah.
can't spend that on my grant every single month.
Mhm.
So like I said, sometimes we read stuff that's been out there for a long time. We're going to be reading Their Eyes Were Watching God.
Oh, wow.
We're going to be reading that. That's obviously been out there quite a while, since 1939 or 37, I think. But there's a lot of people that haven't read it. And
Mhm.
it'll be something interesting for people to read. So that's kind of what we do. I just kind of switch off and see what's coming in and out of the library. I try to read some classics. I bring a lot of different stuff in.
Thanks for sharing. That was great, because I think we're always trying to think of new things to do, and that sounds, great ideas in there.
Thank you. And of course, there's always food at the book club.
Of
So
course, you have
there's
to.
that.
Right.
Absolutely. That is not supported by my grant, but the seniors are something else. They're like, can you get that pizza dip that you bought at the, I'm like, I'm working on it. And the seniors are so forward. I mean, if they don't like something, they tell you they don't like it. And oh, this is terrible. Where did you get this? I'm just like, okay, tell me how you really feel about it. So
Can I ask you, is this an age options grant?
it is. We are supported through Age Options as well. They actually have their own book club. I believe theirs is in Spanish. And I think that they just started theirs up maybe a month and a half ago or so. I know that they were going to do all Spanish. I'm not sure if they're doing bilingual or if it's just Spanish. That I don't 100% know. And I see the Age Options is in here all the time, but I just keep forgetting to ask them.
That sounds phenomenal. That sounds really wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, book club is my baby. It's my passion. I love to deal with book club.
I agree. It is my favorite part of my job too.
It is. It's so fun.
Yep. All right. Well, if we are ready, I'd like to pivot to our next item on the agenda, which again is a little bit more resource sharing based than we usually go. But I wanted to explore whether there are any hiccups that anybody experiences with procuring those materials for your book clubs, and if there's anything that we can do institutionally to make that resource sharing a little bit easier. So, are there any things that occasionally happen that make getting those books into your library a little bit difficult? That sounds like a no to me.
Well, I can see, because I kind of have like the 10,000 foot view. I see book clubs collide sometimes with their selections. So something that seemed like a safe pick will suddenly have 120 holds on it. So
Yeah, we find that that's what happens most frequently for our patron book clubs, because a lot of people put their holds in and they get frozen and suspended. So it's not so much where you are in the holds queue, but your unsuspension date, which gets you your materials in order. And so very occasionally we will go in and we'll place holds and we'll be like, March 15th, no problem. There's literally nothing on the horizon. It'll be great having those books. And then somebody else puts in a unsuspension date of March 10th after us. So then all of the books are gone by the time our holds go active. But we just live in a state of low-key paranoia to make sure that we're constantly checking on that. Because as far as I can tell, there's no really great way to work around that particular
There's
issue.
no good way. You can only say and live by, the Mr. Rogers rule is be a good neighbor. If you're selecting a title, check the hold queue. If you see that there's, a book club that's going to want these things on March 15th and your book club might want to read it in February, maybe push that back to January or April. Just be a good neighbor. Always check that hold queue. Sometimes it's hard to read. I understand. But yeah, we're a big consortium, and there's no reason why we can't fill most of our book club needs, as long as we're mindful of each other.
Does anyone ever, I don't personally deal with this because I'm purchasing the books, but it just seems like Lauren said, you guys live in a state of low-key paranoia. Do you guys ever get patrons that come in and get really upset because you cannot get the books for them and as many as they need? I mean, are some of these book clubs, are they very large? Or are you ordering smaller amounts of books?
We have our adult book discussion with the seniors. I have to order 16 copies because we don't always get 16 people, but the times when I just take it down to 12, we definitely get 16 people. And sometimes we have people like patrons who check out the book but just don't come to the discussion. And some of them will come to the desk to me to talk about it outside of the book club, and some just will never hear a word.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
it's not, they never get angry, I guess. They get a little like, but I can only read large type, so I can't read the small type, and I'm like, I'm really sorry. And it's
Yeah.
not a hateful confrontational
Well, that's
type.
good.
Yeah. But yeah, sometimes that does.
Well, because I think sometimes people have expectations that the libraries can just get them anything, and we really can't. We can't, not in the time that they want it or need it. It just seems like that would be really difficult what you guys are doing. But obviously, I mean, it's working for all of you. So, I mean, that's, to me, you guys are doing a lot harder of a job than I am doing. So it just seems like that's difficult. But hey, I'm glad it works for you.
And you can hedge with WorldCat.
Mhm.
You can, if it's something that is very popular within SWAN, or there are 11 billion holds on it, you can go outside of SWAN and you can get whatever you need.
Yeah.
I'll say our like more difficult interactions about like the books are not available, etc., are almost always with somebody who's not angry, but is high stress. And so their like stressful state makes everybody else feel like it's an exceptionally urgent thing
Oh, I
that we
see.
need to handle right this very second.
Right.
And so there's a lot of like that de-escalating of that stress state in order to have a great conversation about realistic expectations. But I will say my favorite line when people start using our book club service is, we can't help you skip the line, but we can make sure that you don't have to think that much about it.
Okay.
Because people believe that like our book club service has like some sort of magical power and we can skip the line. And I have to make it very clear at the outset
Right.
that
Well,
we are just regular patrons like the rest of you. We
Yeah.
just take the thinking part out of your hands and put it in
Yeah.
ours.
Well, that's what I was thinking, because if you have a few groups that are all trying to read the same book, it might get a little chaotic. And I was just wondering if you get any people that were like I said, people sometimes have high expectations, like the library has, magic.
Mhm.
We can wave a wand and get you anything tomorrow, and we cannot. So,
Yes,
Right.
yeah, we actually have that. A couple of times, I want to say in the last 2 years, we've actually had people go on our website to create a book club for the very first time. And so going through like getting them established, get the people's names and numbers and everything. And then I'll find out they want the women. And it's like, okay, so the whole purpose of them creating a book club was because they thought, oh, well, book clubs get everything. So exactly that. They thought, well, I can, you know, they'll create a book club, and then they move to the head of the line to get these books, of course, by tomorrow, you know. And I've had people get upset that no, that's really not the purpose of what we're doing. It's like, do you really want to create a book club, or are you just really trying to get this book? And most of the time it's just the latter, where they just figured out, well, we'll just try to get this book quicker.
Yeah, we ran into that. Someone requested, a patron said we should do a TikTok book club. And when I kind of talked about it a little more, it was because she wanted to get the books that she was so far down that holds list. And also
Oh,
she was popular on
Oh.
TikTok, like right then. I'm like, TikTok is so fleeting, you know. We couldn't make it work for her. We tried to do a kind of a bring your own TikTok book club format, but it didn't work. She actually didn't even come. So
People are getting really creative out there trying to,
Right.
you know,
Trying-
not McFadden, you know, they're really intense about it.
yes,
Right.
trying to beat the system.
Yep.
I'm happy they're thinking of libraries though to do that. Not
Right.
just-
Yep.
Right. I think from my perspective, it's just like a different version of that conversation that we have to have all the time about why don't you have enough ebooks, right? Well, it's because of factors completely beyond our control, right? Like we're not withholding, we're giving as many ebooks away for loans as we can. If you want to go yell at somebody, I can give you the phone number for Macmillan. But you know, the reason that we don't have as many ebooks as we do book books is because the cost is exorbitant compared to the physical materials, right? So it's kind of that same, you just have to explain a little bit about how the situation actually works and say, well, I'm so sorry, but we can't just magically make 12 copies of that book appear for you. We do also have to wait in line, even though we are an institutional library account waiting. We can't skip the line. So we also, though, do a really good job. Our librarians here do a fantastic job of, oh my gosh, you can't have the women. I'll put you on the list for May, because that's the first date that we can get it for you. But also, here are 3 books that I can get for you right now that are a lot like the women.
Mhm.
Which one would you like me to put on hold for you right this second? And they really love, again, that they don't have to think about coming up with an alternative. Like we've fed them something that is going to work. So that they don't have to like play this back and forth game of like, well, you don't have this. Can we have this? No, we don't have that either. So we just kind of curate a list of things that we're like, we know that we can get this for you, and it seems to align with the type of book you're wanting to read right now. How about these? And generally that heads off any deeply frustrated people.
I think as a rule, if you can solve somebody's problem and put something in their hand that they can walk away with, it really goes a long way to mollifying those hurt feelings.
Yeah. And for us, that's where our book club favorites collection is exceptionally useful, because there are some books where we do have like 8 to 12 copies on the shelf, and I can just go grab them and put them on hold tomorrow. So we do have that like luxury of that book club collection to work with.
How many people do you have, just to the group in general? How many people do you guys have that work on the book club? Like how many staff members?
We have 5, including me.
We have 5 or 6 staff members running book clubs, and then we have 4 plus 2 in a minor role people working on book club services.
We
So
have
Lauren,
me.
how many book clubs do you support?
Um, we have, well, I don't know precisely how many book clubs it is because we stopped tracking how many unique book clubs we have. We just track the number of requests that we get.
I'm just trying to like gauge a ratio of staffers to clubs.
Yeah, so we're fulfilling about 20 a month. And if I had to guess, I would say not everybody is requesting something every month. So I bet we're probably closer to about double that number of book clubs. But 20, like 12 to 20, depending on the time of year per month, right?
And you said you
Nobody
had
wants a book club book in November because they're having their holiday party in December.
So that's like a 2 to 3 to 1 staff to club ratio.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a dedicated email address and a dedicated phone extension for the service, which really helps.
Oh, we have 6 people.
Oh, I missed the chat. Carrie Ann has 4, including me, 2 running and 2 requesting and processing the books. And Carrie Ann, how many book clubs do you support at your library? No pressure to type fast.
Yeah, we just have me. We're just, we're kind of, we're small.
No, you're
So
1 to 1. You're not that far off.
yeah. It's, yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, I enjoy doing it, so
Carrie Ann says 5, so that's about 1 to 1 as well.
I also, in my tally, am not counting all of the people in our access services group that pull the things out of the bins, check them out, discharge them, get them on hold, and doing all of the like routine materials management. We worked really hard to get our procedures and our process really well aligned with things that already happen in our access services department. So there's nothing special about what they have to do. So if I were then to add that whole crew of people, that adds a significant number to the people that are touching our book club books. But for them, it's not a unique task, if that makes sense.
Speaking as a former frontline employee, I appreciate you not making things complicated.
When we first started book club services, there were so many exceptions to all of the rules that it really became very difficult for our customer service staff to help us and support us with what was going on. And so as we moved into our new building 4 years ago, our major priority was to really make sure we were streamlining our process so that we didn't have those complicated exceptions to all of the rules, because that is the absolute worst thing. As a former person from customer service, that the exceptions to the rules are the worst thing.
See their new stove. She's
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know how many of you recall our now defunct Kit Keeper project. But once upon a time, we had all of our book club materials in the consortium in book club kits in like a bag, right? A standard number of materials inside a bag. The bag is what had the barcode. And we were trying to get a pilot program up and running where we could share those kits more easily between libraries, because we did a lot of like, you can have this in advance. So like you can have that kit 3 months from now. So regular holds management wasn't working for those kinds of materials. In the end, it didn't really provide like enormous benefit in contrast to what we were doing before. So the pilot did kind of go away. But if there's anything about that system that we really want to find a way to bring back, I would love to hear from you all. I know that our kits currently, you have to contact us directly for them to transit out. The item type doesn't allow for out of library holds, but we do send them, you know, when another library requests them. But yes, we wish we could share them a little bit more freely.
So you're saying that if I was looking at your are they on SWAN that I can see that you have these?
Mhm.
Okay, and then if we see that there's something there and nobody has it and it's on the shelf, so like I would just contact you directly to get it for like one of my groups or borrow it
Yeah.
first, you know, here.
Yes.
Mhm.
We have the book club favorites. We also have the book club kits. They're two distinct collections.
Okay.
We might have weeded that one, Helen.
Ah,
Let's try Hester. Oh no.
it's shadowed.
Yeah, they also have not been appearing in the catalog a whole lot.
Okay.
But if you click on that lovely link you're pretty much hovering over right now, it's in a list, book club bundles.
Okay.
Oh, book club bundles.
And that is a searchable list. So anything in this list is something that we do own a kit of, and we would gladly send it your way.
Wonderful. Okay, that's good to
Drop
know.
that in the chat.
I will say I was really excited. I think I came to a meeting during the pandemic, maybe 2021, about the kit keepers, and then we just needed different types of formats. Like, so it didn't work for us, unfortunately. We needed way more large print.
Yes, I think our kits currently have only regular print in them, but every kit is supported by single copies of large print that are in the collection. Though I have seen there's another library somewhere that only has large print in their bundles, which I
Interesting.
thought was a very intriguing idea.
Yeah.
It is the most accessible print format. I will say though, we're no longer developing that kit collection, so it will only get smaller over time.
Okay.
Are you still pilfering copies from your friends at the library to support those?
Yes. I go down to the book sale all the time. And if there's a nice, good quality copy of one of those books that are in our bundles / kits, I grab it and I hold on to it like a little tiny hoarder. And then when one of the books doesn't return and they're like, I swear, my friend had number 8 and please don't charge me $100 for replacing the whole kit. We're like, don't worry about it. It's fine. Because then we just put the extra one that I found in the sale back into the bag and everything is good. Okay. I think we kind of already hit on a lot of the things for item number 5 on our list, which is crafting universal standards for how we place holds on book discussion materials. It sure sounded to me like we all pretty much already are following the same guidelines, even if they're not formally written down. If there's disagreement, I'm very happy to hear it.
I think everybody in book club land and resource sharing land for that matter, understands the concept of being a good neighbor, checking the hold queue, not stepping on anybody's lands, not making any changes to any existing holds that are in place. There's always going to be rogue actors in the field who go off the reservation and
Again, why I live in a constant state of just minor paranoia all of the time. Though
I will say, if anything catastrophic does happen to things that you've put in place, open a support ticket and tag me in it, because I'm the resource sharing person, so that'll find me a little bit easier. But somebody will still be able to help you in case somebody drops a house on me and I'm not available to respond to that ticket.
we appreciate that, Helen. I will say by far and away, the biggest problem we've had with not good neighbors have come from within inside the house. So we have always had discussions internally about how we need to respect book club service. It's been exceptionally rare. It's been an external issue. That's why everything I do now is password protected. But then my next item was, I know we meet in this user group. I informally can see that there are other libraries that are providing book club services in some kind of way to their libraries, but would it be useful to create an actual list of who's doing what in book club land? Would anybody be interested in having that list?
Do you mean like what we're doing for discussion wise, or do you mean like who's the person that you contact to do book clubs? What do you mean like specifically?
So in my mind, which is a vast wasteland sometimes, I was thinking of are you providing in-house book clubs? How are you obtaining those materials? Are you providing services to patron book clubs? Do you have book club kits available? Kind of some of those really big picture things
Okay.
about how book club services might work at your library, plus that contact information, so that somebody could say, I am very intrigued by this combination of factors I see at this library. I'd love to know more about what they're doing.
Yes. I think that sounds great. Yes.
Right? Okay.
So
Oh,
we're thinking
Helen is
something
on
like
it.
so are we thinking kits, patron supported, patron run groups.
Right.
What are some other headers, another column headers that would be useful?
Seniors, like senior devoted book clubs.
Maybe genre.
Yeah.
Are you looking like a list of genres or genre specific clubs?
I would say genres. Well, I would say maybe the list of genres. I do a speculative fiction book club, and I'd
Okay.
love to know what other people who are doing sci-fi and fantasy and all things blendy are doing. And as I say it, I understand that's not a specific genre, but a bunch of genres put together.
So maybe contact person.
Maybe that.
So it sounds to me we have almost two different tables that we're talking about. We want to talk about book club services in the abstract, but also what book clubs are being run. Does that sound accurate?
I mean, it would be nice to be able to reach out to someone if, for example, we'd done that TikTok book club and I was like, man, this just isn't working, but I see these other 3 libraries are running something like this. What are they doing better? Like, what could I do? That could be helpful. But that would mean a specifically titling what your book club is and its purpose. That'd be a bit more information.
I'll give you a quick plug for the SWAN forums on that one.
Thank you.
That if you have a very particular and targeted question like that, anybody who's part of that book club forum group, and depending on their notification settings, would get a notice that you've asked a question. And if they have really useful information, then they can just type it on back to you. And then you don't need direct contact information for everybody. You're hitting the entire consortium all at once. So currently our book club forum is not terribly robust, but I would love to see that change.
And if we developed these spreadsheets, we could link them here. They wouldn't need to live on the support site. We could make it so that it's, like group editable, and you guys could manage it yourselves, edit your own content.
That would be wonderful, because I know staff turnover is often makes
It's a
those
concern.
things go out of date. So, not that we want our staff to turn over, but it does occasionally happen.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, it sounds like I have a project to work on with Helen and Nancy. And
I
we
love a good spreadsheet
will,
project.
I do love a good spreadsheet. Our book club spreadsheet is actually a thing I'm exceptionally proud of.
The magical spreadsheet, if I
Oh,
recall.
okay. So we don't use the magic spreadsheet
Oh,
anymore.
no.
Once upon a time, for all of you not part of our KitKeeper project, I had a rather extensive spreadsheet that we used to keep track of all of our book club reservations, and we called it the magic spreadsheet. But one of my staff members is way more skilled in Excel than I am, and she created a spreadsheet that runs on macros that automatically fills everything out.
Nice.
It's glorious. And then it takes all the things in the spreadsheet and puts them in a calendar for us.
That sounds like an enchanted spreadsheet.
I believe it is, yes. It might be its new title. So yes, though I am happy to send anybody my magic spreadsheet, I do still have a blank copy of it. But yes, we've got a spreadsheet project to work on, and we will likely develop that in the forums. So if you're not already a member of the forums, Helen, what's the way to get in there?
I dropped a link in the chat. If you cannot log in, I believe that allows you an option to request access. If it doesn't, if I'm lying, just shoot us a support ticket and ask for forum, community forum credentials.
Beautiful. All righty. Well, I think we have exhausted my list of topics. So I would like to ask all of you, what things are your burning questions? And what would you all like to talk about in book club land?
I would actually like to throw out there, if anyone is doing anything really creative in their book club, and also who is not so much with the patron run, but the in-house that the libraries are doing, what creative, if anything, things are you doing, and who writes your questions for book club, or do you just get them online, or how do you get all of your, oh, I'm so sorry, the phone's ringing over here. How do you word your questions so that it creates a discussion and not just, not to make it like you're in a classroom, or where people can leave it more open-ended? Are people doing that? I myself write my own questions. I really don't like to look at the things online that are written, only because they tend to be very structured. They're a little too structured for me. And I like to have everyone have their own opinion and not say, well, this is like this and this is like that. And I find, not all, of course, but I find a lot of the questions that are online are more like that. They're more of like a classroom setting, in my opinion. So I was just wondering that, and like I said, if anyone's doing anything really creative in their book clubs.
I will share that I have a box at my desk that is labeled Book Club Emergency,
Okay.
which is a box full of the most important part is, has anybody used those table topics decks where you like draw a like card out of the deck and there's a question on it? And it's like meant to inspire like a conversation around the dinner table or something like that.
Okay.
They have one that is book club themed. So you can just pass the little cube around the table and have everybody pick out 3 questions. And then those are general book club questions that you can use to run a book club on any book at any time. So it goes in the emergency box because if somebody's out sick or, you know, something wild happens, you can just take that box out and say, this is going to be our book club today, right? Because it has enough wide range general questions that you can definitely fill an hour, hour and a half with discussion based on these really general questions. And then when writing my own questions, I do have a list of general discussion questions that I work off of. So I do look up the like publisher questions. I usually only like 3 out of 12.
Yeah, me too.
And so I include some of those. You know, usually maybe there's like 2 or 3 things that really stood out to me and I craft a question around those. But then when I'm filling in the remainder of the questions I need, I go to those general topic questions. I don't use the same ones every time, but I have a pretty exhaustive list of I think 30 or 40 general fiction discussion questions that I pull from for inspiration.
Okay.
So it helps me to have a little bit of a shortcut so that it's not all original content.
What was the name of the cards that you use? What is it again?
It's table topics. I'm gonna see if I can find it for you
Table
all.
topics. Okay.
And are they actual cards, or are they, what, is it like a booklet, or is it actual cards?
It's actual cards.
Okay.
I am having trouble finding it, but I will drop it in the chat in just a minute.
Okay.
Was anyone doing anything, creative like? I'm always looking for creativity in the book club, because that's what my seniors always say. I do like a little, every 2-3 months, I just do a little impromptu survey about, hey, do you like this, or did you like what we did with this or that? Sometimes very rarely, I've thrown in a craft project along with the book. For instance, a while ago, we read A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, which is, of course, an American classic. And instead of getting some, like I had mentioned, I get like a little, quote unquote souvenir of the book. What I decided to do that day was have a paint party. And I got everybody the little canvas, and then I told them to paint the picture of the tree that they saw in their mind during, the
I
book.
love it.
What did they think that tree looked like? Even though the book does give a description, it's not, and there is an actual tree. I forgot the actual name of the tree that it actually is, but people weren't really paying attention to that. I said, how did you see the tree in your mind? So as we discussed the book, we painted. And the majority of the seniors really loved it. actually everybody loved it once I had to push a few people into it. 'Cause a couple people were not, I'm not doing this. I don't want to do it. And then I said, you know what? We're not going to put them in the Art Institute or anything. So let's not worry about what it looks like. Then they got more involved. And another book that we read, just as an example, we read the book The Shack. That is a very spiritual book, and it's kind of existential in a way. And what we did that day was, instead of having a book discussion, we actually, I rented the movie on Amazon Prime, and we went in our community room and we watched the movie, and kind of during the movie, we would sort of discuss the book. Just different aspects of the book that we would discuss while the movie played. And I got movie snacks, and we had popcorn, and we had the candy boxes and all that, and I set it up kind of like a theater, and they really enjoyed that. So I was just looking for any other creative ideas that anyone else might have done.
That sounds great.
Thank you.
Ellie, I think you are the most creative book
Yes.
in my entire life, and I am really impressed by all that.
Oh my God.
I like to bring food. I don't know how creative that
In
is.
food. Food's about it for here.
Okay.
The food was featured in the book, but
Yeah.
hardly ever.
I've
Mhm.
tried to do that where the food that's featured in the book, but it really doesn't work out that way, because sometimes it's stuff that's, it's cooked and I can't pull that off because it's too much. And sometimes I really I can't get certain, I'm not able to get certain food. I have a disability. I use a wheelchair, so I can't always just, run out and grab something that day. I have to get the food, a day or two before, because that's just easier for me. But I do what I can, but nobody really complains about food. Well, sometimes they'll tell me, oh, I didn't really like this, or I really like that. And I'm just like, okay, well, put in your order and I'll see what I can do.
Lee, I don't remember where I saw it, but I remember during COVID when people were pivoting and were just trying all sorts of things to keep book clubs afloat.
Uh-huh.
Somebody was putting together, like in the book club book, like they would put the book in the bag, and then the patron, contactless pickup and all that
Right.
stuff.
Right.
But in the bag, they were putting things that would give a sense of place based on smell. So like spice packets, like cedar shavings,
Oh,
cocoa powder, stuff
Oh.
like that.
I never thought of that. That's an awesome idea. I can do that.
Nothing to make them sneeze, but
Yeah,
smell
right.
is such a powerful
Yeah,
sense.
that's true. Mhm.
I'm just so impressed by all of you. I just show up with a book and we talk about it.
Oh, we have a really good discussion. Like I said, I do a lot of open-ended questions so that it kind of creates discussion. And of course, like I said, with the seniors, sometimes we hear stuff that I am just shocked. I have been floored by some of the things that my seniors have discussed, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Let's redirect and get back on track. They, they will share their own personal stories sometimes of that is similar to a character in the book, and I'm just like, oh, okay then. Oversharing, too much information there, but okay.
Oh my gosh, yes, my seniors are very similar.
Yes.
I'm with you. I write the questions. I make sure they're open-ended. I've noticed that the ones you see with the publisher are very complicated. Like anything that says compare and contrast. I know
Yes,
I
it's
can't
too
do
much.
that. But if someone were to speak to me just as a person, Marissa, compare and contrast and analyze these people in a separate piece right now, I'd be like, what? Just all the
Right.
I couldn't process it. So I
And
think,
that's why I, like I said, I believe that a lot of those questions are written for more of a classroom discussion.
yeah.
It's really not a book club thing. People, my seniors would turn around and they'd probably tell me off if I said, I said anything.
Yeah.
I don't want to have a classroom discussion. I want it to be a fun afternoon for everybody to sit around and have their, I have a coffee bar and everything. So, we have, we've got the little coffee, we've got a cart with the coffee bar, the Keurig machine, all kind of flavored coffees and teas. I want everyone to have a good time and then have some some snacks, have some conversation, and to spark interest and say, oh, I want to come back to book club. And the questions, people always say that the questions are thought provoking, which is my goal. I don't, like I said, Marissa, I don't want people, I don't need analyze such and such a character and the time frame in this. I don't, no, we're not doing that.
They really like it when I ask them, which character did you despise the most?
Yes.
I love anything like that. Like, who was the worst?
Yeah, yeah, I've done that too. And it's funny the way that people will get very involved. Oh, I hated so and so and what and it's just I get a kick out of that. Yeah.
That is my go-to when the room is quiet,
Yeah.
for sure, because it does very much spark people to have very passionate conversations.
How many questions do you guys typically ask?
Oh,
I would say I prep at least 10 to 15. I actually kind of theme it. I look about the themes of the book and I divide it up by like that.
Okay.
But sometimes I only ask 3 or 4 because they get going and I love it when they talk to each other.
Yeah,
And
me
so,
too.
like, if you all are talking to each other, I can sit back and just, redirect if I need to. But I think that's a big piece of the job is knowing when not to talk.
Yeah, because sometimes, yeah, I usually do like you guys said, I do 10 to 15. And sometimes, yes, you absolutely have to get people back on track.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I do the same thing. I see the tabletop book club thing. This is fantastic in case you do get caught
Right.
where,
It's
someone else.
truly phenomenal because it means
say
that
currently unavailable though.
I know it
Ah.
ebbs and flows though. So like if you put it in an Amazon cart, or maybe it's not available through Amazon, that might be it too.
Okay.
But I found it, the availability ebbs and flows over time. But this means that I can ask like our cataloger to run a book club because all you have to do is like pull cards out of a deck and be like, what do you think? And then you're done. Right? Like it's not the best book club that we've ever run, but it's certainly a serviceable method for conversation.
And how far in advance do you usually write your questions?
15 minutes.
Oh, really?
I'm a terrible procrastinator.
Oh, see, I usually have mine written about a month or two in advance. And the reason I do that is because if for any reason and especially in the winter months, if for any reason I'm not able to get to book club, I want one of my coworkers to be able to take over. And even if they did not read the book, but I want them to be able to take over if necessary and have the questions, ready for them. So I was doing it, oh, I'll just do it, a month or a couple weeks in advance. And then I decided, you know what, I better, because in the winter it's a little harder. Sometimes I can't make it to work because it's, with the snow and snow and wheelchairs don't go well together, but I do my best. But so far I've never missed a book club, knock on wood. So it's been almost 2.5 years.
That is impressive.
Yeah,
And you
I try not to. Because the seniors, they'll come for me.
Right. I just can't imagine getting everything that far in advance. I will say around here, best practice is a week in advance. You're
we're a
supposed
week.
to have your materials prepped. Do I achieve that goal every month? I do not.
Well, sometimes
But I
don't
do try.
I mean, I always have it ready, but sometimes it's a little bit more chaotic than other times. But I try to, oh my gosh, we've got, I'm sorry, we've got another group in here and I'm right by their door. I'm sorry if you guys are hearing background noise, but yeah, sometimes it's a little bit more chaotic than others, but it all works out.
Well, do we have any additional topics that burning questions, things that people really would love to talk about?
Is there anything out there that everyone feels like it's a must read for a book club?
Well, you know, I just read Saints for All Occasions by J. Courtney Sullivan, and they absolutely ate it up. They loved it.
What's it called? I'm sorry.
It's older, Saints for All Occasions
Okay.
by J. It's about it's like an Irish family saga about a nun. Anytime we can talk about nuns, my adult seniors absolutely love it.
Okay.
And there's something about it that they glow.
Hmm.
And I do especially the fiction one, and Murderbot was a big one. Everyone really liked reading Murderbot. I like Murderbot too. Just talking about uh, Murderbot's morals or the bigger picture of the environment. Does Murderbot have a gender? Does that matter? I think we talked about even just those three topics kept us going for an hour.
Has anyone read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig?
We
How
did that
is it?
one.
You did. Okay, I'm going to do that one in January, and I'm hoping it's definitely different than what we're usually reading, and it seemed very interesting, and I've seen it come in and out of the library several times, and I'm just wondering, is it good, or is it a little too out there?
Uh, it was a divisive book because some people who have struggled with mental health issues felt it was not well. They felt like it didn't show it gracefully, and they didn't give that struggle its due. And for some people who had lost family members to suicide, it was a tough read. But for other people who saw it as more of an optimistic book, they liked it.
Okay.
I
And some
second
people,
everything Marissa just said. That's exactly the response that we got.
Okay. Yeah, and actually for that book, even though I didn't read it yet, I do some research on it. And actually for that book, I wound up buying as the little gift that goes with it, I bought everybody a set of positive affirmation cards.
Wow.
So that's what they're going to get. But yeah, I just thought, oh, I hope that that isn't going to be too, but we read all sorts of stuff. Some things are, real happy ending. Where everything is sunshine and rainbows, and other stuff not so much. And that's, to me, that's the point of the book club, is to take you in different directions and to get you to read things that you might not normally pick up, including myself, because there's certain books where I'm like, I don't know if I really want to read this, but I think it would make a good discussion, and I go ahead and read it. And I was like, wow, this is great.
I think the one I have been recommending to nearly everybody in the last year or two is Hester, which we pulled up in the catalog earlier. It is a fictionalized accounting of the woman that Nathaniel Hawthorne met in real life that inspired him to write The Scarlet Letter. So
Oh, really?
Nathaniel Hawthorne is a character in the book. He does not come out great. But it really is phenomenal because you can come at it from so many angles. There's a little bit of witchcraft, there's a little bit of like historicalness, there's a lot of discussion of religion, there's Underground Railroad. She is a really talented seamstress. Like there's just so many different aspects that people can latch onto and really have the book resonate with them. Pretty much everybody who says they want a historical read, this is the first one I pick up and talk to them about.
Good to know.
Yeah, good to know.
I thought I was gonna-
It is a little after 11. We started a little bit after 9:30. So everybody should definitely get forum access if you don't have it already, because we will not be meeting again until October of 2025.
Yep, we determined that this group, and for our purposes, once a year feels like a really good happy medium. So we're really hoping to get a really robust group of people together once a year.
So tell your friends.
I can't believe
And hopefully we'll have a spreadsheet of
Yes.
people that we can invite to our party.
And drag them kicking and screaming into this Zoom meeting.
Well, thank you very much. This is really helpful.
Yeah,
It
this
is
is a great
always
discussion.
my favorite thing. So, all right.
All right. I will see you guys on the forums. I will see you guys at the fireside chats and in the tickets. And yeah, I'm going to turn off the recording so we can have one final thought if anybody wants one.